Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So behind me is the 2022 Chevrolet Bolt EUV Premier, finished off in gray ghost metallic, and it has an MSRP just over $43,000. And we're going to start off today's review with what powers this Bolt. Underneath the hood is the single 150 kilowatt battery paired to the single speed transmission. This pumps out 200 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque. That power sent to the front wheels. This weighs in right around 3,700 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, up to its top speed of 93 miles an hour. And for the fuel economy, you're looking at around 125 miles per gallon electric in the city, 104 out on the highway, with a total range of 247 miles. This has a wheelbase of 105.3 inches. Its overall length is 169.5. It has a width of 69.7, a height of 63.6, and its ground clearance measures in at 5.6 inches. As we move on to the exterior styling now for this all-new Chevy Bolt, let's start off with the Chevy bow tie and the integrated forward-facing camera nicely placed up underneath. Really like how integrated that camera is, along with the gloss black trim that you see surrounding what I'll call the grille. Electric vehicles don't really have front grills, but it has a nice design to it. There are some cutouts in the lower section of it just to provide cooling to all those components that you saw up underneath the hood and provide it with some better aerodynamics. This model does have LED headlights, which are in an untraditional place. They're right in the middle of the vehicle with the LED turn signals and DRLs in the upper housing. The turn signals also have a sequential design to them, which is great to see. And I love all of the contoured lines that are in the front end of this vehicle. It even has some more functional cutouts just underneath the headlights to provide even more aerodynamics for this electric vehicle. Really nice lines coming down the hood. There's even one coming down the middle of the hood, going right through the bow tie and then all the way to the camera. So just ties in nicely. I love that line right there on the outside of the headlight housing. And as we move on to the side profile now, this has a set of 17-inch wheels with a two-tone design, really nice multi-spoke pattern, and this even has the regenerative braking, which is a plus to see on an electric vehicle. Now there is some plastic trim surrounding the fender flares. It's in the lower section of the front bumper, going down the side skirts, where there is some chrome trim just to tie it in nicely. This even has a full panoramic sunroof, along with the roof racks on both sides. We have the two-tone for the mirrors, as well as having a camera and the integrated turn signal. This has a nice side proportional design to it, kind of has a shorter rear end, but everything comes together very nicely. There's even a line just above that rear door handle, and another one that follows the window trim all the way up. All of the window trim is finished off in black, and it leads nicely to the bottom of the spoiler, where it has a two-tone design along with the third brake light. There is a camera mounted up top as well. That camera corresponds with the rear view mirror, which I'll show later. The wiper blade is in the lower section. There's a standard backup camera. Parking sensors are down in the lower section. This even has LED taillights, and the turn signals are placed in the lower section, so it's flip-flopped from the front end of this vehicle. There's a nice trim piece in that lower diffuser just to break it up a little bit with the reverse light right in the middle, and this even has a towing capacity right around 2,000 pounds, so you can hook up smaller trailers if you need to. If you're taking this camping, you just need a little bit of extra storage. Anything like that, you can put some smaller items behind this. Now let's move on to this cargo area, where I'll use the button up underneath. And once I open up this lift gate, for the size of this, it actually has a decent amount of space. So the back seats are currently up, and there's a nice flat surface where you can place items. There's a few tie-down hooks, as well as a cargo light. And then up underneath the floor, you can actually remove this entire piece. So if I take that out of the way, there's no spare tire, but that is a pretty deep compartment where you can definitely fit and hide a lot of items. And if you remove the entire floor liner, you can see the charging cable that is provided for this model. So you can quickly hook this up to your house when needed. And with the back seats folded down and the upper cover and that lower storage shelf removed, you can get a good look at how much interior storage space there is for this smaller size SUV, making it very practical to own. On the back of the liftgate, there is one grab handle, so that is easy to close. And now we can make our way to these back seats, where the door handle also has more of that chrome trim to match the lower side skirt, so that's a great touch to see. And for this particular model, the leather on the interior is called Night Shift Blue. Matches really nicely with this exterior color. The door panel has a great two-tone design to it with that blue and white stitching. The grab handle is just in front of that, along with the window control. These are even heated rear seats. There's even the chrome on the release handle, a little bit of storage space down in the lower section of the door. And at 5'10", it's time to make my way into these back seats where honestly, I have a lot of space. I have the front seat set at my height, plenty of room for my feet and my legs. There's a USB-C right in the middle. And then as far as headroom goes, I have about an inch or two above my head. So for the size again, it's actually pretty comfortable for your backseat passengers. Right in the middle, there's an armrest as well as 2 cup holders if you need to use that. And we'll get a look at visibility from the back seats. That pillar is pretty bulky, but driving this around, it's really not all that bad. Very easy to get used to. This even has a 7-speaker audio sound system as well. And before we move on to the front seats, surprisingly, this does have remote start. So if I lock the vehicle and then hold on this button, obviously you're not going to hear it start up, but you can visualize and see it come to life. And you can hold on that button if you would like to cut it off. But it's a great feature, especially for an electric vehicle. You can have the AC going, the heated or ventilated seats. So it's really nice to have that technology. And then to lock and unlock the vehicle from the driver door handle, you simply just push on that button to unlock it and then push it to lock it. And the door panels finish off just like the rear with that same 2-tone design. Even another trim piece that separates them. All the window controls as well as the side mirror adjustments are there as well. We have the release handle, lock and unlock, a little bit more storage, as well as one of the speakers for that Bose audio sound system. And the front seats have a great design to them too. These are heated and ventilated like I just mentioned. Blue stitching running down them. They are automatic seats for the driver's side, so all of those controls are down on the side. And this is a very, very low door sill. You can actually see it dip down, so it makes it very easy to swing your feet up and enter. The door also opens very wide, so this is definitely easy to enter and exit. This is the intro for the Chevy Bolt. Plays a nice little tone to it. Now on the steering wheel, it's completely covered in solid black leather with black stitching. Over on the right side is Bluetooth and voice commands, as well as some scrolling dials for that center screen. On the left side is all the cruise and super cruise buttons, which I'll show later in this video. This even has a regenerative button that you can pull on, and I'll show that again later once we get out on the road. And then on the back side, we do have the volume and tuning adjustments on the left and the right side. But let's fire this back up. With my foot on the brake, that power button is over on the right side, and we can bring this back to life. And looking at this gauge cluster now, currently you can see on the left side is the range until we need to recharge. So currently there's 219 miles left with a max of 258. And the lower left is the odometer. On the right side is what gear you're in, as well as showing that regenerative braking, which this paddle on the left side does. You can also monitor how much power you're using. And right in the middle, currently it's showing the trip as well as your distance and average. I can use those scrolling dials over on that right side. If I scroll down, we can pull up the average speed, look at TPMS. There's even a timer as well, along with the driving assistance, so you can monitor your distance pacing. There's the speed limit sign. And then if I push on the left, over on this left side, we can go through music as well as navigation when you have that on and running. You can also pull up your phone. Going into this one here, there are 2 different layouts. We have a modern and an enhanced. So just depending on how you'd like to see that information, it changes it ever so slightly. You can see on that right side, we have acceleration and braking, and then the enhanced, which shows that regenerative braking. And then the last one is for settings, so you can go into units. You can also look at a tutorial. So if you're unfamiliar with this vehicle, if I go into the modern one, it will show you this tutorial here with 3 separate steps. So you can look at your speedometer, your EV range, and as well as your efficiency gauge. So if you've never been in this vehicle before and you have some questions, it will walk you through it. Pretty interesting to be able to see that. So it's a great system to have. Not a whole lot of information, but it's nice to have that digital screen. And then on the top of the steering wheel, this is for the Super Cruise. Again, I'll show that once we get out on the road in order to activate that. Over on this left side is the headlight controls as well as a dimmer switch for the gauges. There's 1 air vent along with more of that blue leather. And then as we move to the center, there are 2 air vents right in the middle above this 10.2-inch touchscreen system. I like the angle of it. It's a very large screen too, and all of the black surrounding it just gives it a really nice design. So currently this is showing music. If I push the lower left, this is for the home. And if I scroll all the way over, we can pull up music as well as your phone when you have that paired. Navigation is on that right side. And then there's a lot of icons like navigation. I can click on that to pull that up in full screen to view that map. There's even audio. We can go into users. The energy icon has some really nice information to go through. You have your charging options, which will show you where the closest charger is, which is pretty neat to see. You can also go into the energy, look at the flow where the energy is being transferred. There's details to monitor if you'd like to look at all of those stats, as well as all of this information, even some history as well. So it's a cool tab to see. This even has Apple CarPlay. There's Android Auto. You can go into all of the climates as well to be able to go through that information. There's even the hotspot, My Chevrolet, OnStar, even Amazon Alexa. So you have a lot of information to go through with some shortcuts on the bottom too. So you can quickly pull up your music, your phone, even your navigation, or that energy tab that I showed earlier. And then on this left side is power and volume for the radio. There's another home dial. And then you can use this scrolling dial to further go through this information. So if you don't want to use it as a touchscreen system, you can use this dial and then click on it to enter whatever information that you'd like to go through. Over on this right side is the hazard button. And then underneath that, we do have this really nice trim piece separating it from all of those controls. It wraps its way all the way over to the passenger side air vent, and it separates that upper screen from all of your climate controls where we have recirc. You can push on climate and quickly get to that in the upper screen. Like I mentioned earlier, this does have heated and ventilated seats. So you have those dials incorporated into one toggle for driver and passenger. This even has a heated steering wheel. Temperature is right in the middle, as well as fan speed. This is a blank toggle right here. I'm not sure if this model offers dual zone or not, but for right now it is blank. It would be nice to see a dual zone climate for this model. And then up underneath is the wireless charging port, along with the sport mode button. You have traction control and the lane keeping assist. There's a little bit of storage where I have placed the key fob, so it's nice to put that there. And then to go into all of the different gears, we have park, which is just a button. Neutral is a button as well. If I pull up on this brushed aluminum dial, we can go into reverse, where this has the 360 camera system, as well as that top-down view. And you can go through a lot of different angles, just depending on what you like to see, what guidance that you need. You can turn on those guidelines as well. Really nice system to have. Drive is the exact same to engage. Park is that button, obviously. And then underneath all of those controls, there's a lot more storage space with even a lip on both sides. So you can place a lot of items down there. They won't roll around. On the back side is the one pedal braking. There's even the electronic parking brake. There are two cup holders right in the middle. And then for the center armrest, not a whole lot of storage. It's a deep compartment, but you can definitely fit a lot of items in there if you need to. And then the glove box has a good amount of room as well. We'll take another look at this pretty much deep blue interior. Really nice to see this leather. And like I mentioned earlier, we have the full sunroof. So the sunroof and sunshade adjustments are up in the middle. I can easily close that up and open it as needed. There's even some OnStar buttons right in the middle, as well as the dome lights that you can activate. And right in the middle, we have the standard rear view mirror and then that camera system. So as I showed earlier, on the back side of that spoiler is that camera system. You can even make adjustments to it as well for the brightness. You can adjust how much you'd like it to zoom in or zoom out, and you can even adjust the height, so you can move that up and down as needed. Really nice technology to have, especially for a vehicle like this. So now getting behind the wheel of this Chevrolet Bolt, I'm gonna go ahead and put it into sport mode, give it some acceleration here. That is pedal to the floor. Surprisingly, it's not slow. It's a pretty heavy vehicle, obviously being electric. The batteries are going to weigh a good bit for that additional curb weight, but surprisingly, it's quick. I've had it for the morning. This is kind of my first impressions for this vehicle. I have it for 1 week, so stay tuned for my final thoughts 1 week later, what it's like actually driving and daily driving a fully electric vehicle. But so far, I think it's pretty impressive. It's a great size. It is very, very tiny from the outside, but from the inside, it actually has a decent amount of space where this could be all you need. You can fit in a lot of items. So I really like how practical it is for the size. And then being fully electric, it's very interesting. Obviously, it's very quiet. I like it. It's a pretty neat vehicle. One thing that I have learned with it so far is that you want this as more of a city vehicle versus doing highway driving, or at least traveling when you're going long distances. The person who delivered this car to me had to stop around 40-45 minutes from where I live to charge it for an hour and a half to get it to enough charge to make it to my house and for me to have it almost fully charged here. So you do have to factor in the time of driving this longer distances. Now, he had to drive around 4 hours to get to my house. So if you're doing long distance type driving like that, I'm just going to be primarily driving this around the city, doing a few highway trips here and there. Nothing too crazy. I'm not going that far with this vehicle. So it's interesting. I've had to search around my area for charging stations. I've never had to do that before. So we're gonna stop at one at the end of this video. So it's interesting. It's a different concept, obviously, than a gasoline vehicle. So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely do your research. Obviously, you can charge this at home. And from what I have found, plugging this in using a normal 3-prong outlet with the charger that is in the back, you can charge this, fully charge it in around 7 hours. So as long as you plug it in before you go to bed, when you wake up in the morning, it should essentially be fully charged, which is great to see. Now, on some DC fast chargers that I believe are in most stations, not at your house, you can get up to around 93 miles in a half hour for this model. So that's pretty adequate. I think that's pretty good. You could at least make it home if you're close enough, if you have to do a quick charge. So I want to talk about a few things that I mentioned earlier. We have the 1-pedal braking as well as this left paddle shifter. Now, what I found in using this, if I let off the gas pedal or the accelerator, we're just kind of cruising like you would in a normal gasoline vehicle. If I hold on this paddle, I don't know if you can tell, but we are almost coming to a stop. So what it does is it's essentially doing the regenerative braking by pulling on this paddle. I don't know if I see the benefit of that, because you can push on the 1-pedal braking, and or the 1-pedal driving, if I let off the accelerator, we're essentially doing the same thing. So it's interesting to see that there's a paddle over here. It kind of clutters your tuning dials on the back side. There's nothing obstructing volume over on this right side. As we switch over to the POV angle now for this Chevrolet Bolt, we'll do a quick visibility test over the shoulder. It is easy to see, especially with that pillar that I mentioned earlier. I can easily see over my left shoulder. So don't let that pillar deter you from buying this. I really haven't had any blind spot issues. So we are going to merge out onto the highway. We have a pretty long on-ramp, and I've been very impressed with how quick this gets up to speed. It doesn't have a lot of horsepower or torque, but being electric, all of that is instant the moment that you tap the accelerator. And as far as handling goes, we're going 45 miles an hour right now around this turn, and it's handling it well. So now giving it some, what I would call gas on that accelerator, we are up to speed. Very, very impressive. So I'm gonna throw in a clip with activating Super Cruise. You do have to have adaptive cruise control on, and then right above the miles per hour, it will show your hands on the steering wheel, and now the green bar will light up on the top, meaning that it is active. It's going to blink if you take your hands off the wheel, I believe. But we have Super Cruise activated. What I have found is that you need to be on a wide highway. This doesn't work in the city. This doesn't work on 2-lane roads, which is weird because I'm on one right now. All right, now it says it's disengaging because obviously my hands are not on the wheel. And it won't engage at the moment. It tells me to center the vehicle in the lane. From there, that icon of the steering wheel will pop up. I can push on it again, everything lights up green, and we have it activated. So it's an interesting system, but it's also designed for highway use. So back roads, city driving, you're not going to be able to engage Super Cruise. So this is pretty cool. It's engaging again because it's timing out with putting your hands on the steering wheel. It's telling me that I'm driving in an exit lane, which, as you can tell, I currently have an exit lane at the moment. So it's not going to engage when you are in a lane. It's kind of cool how it can detect that. And one thing that I found interesting with the Super Cruise, as I currently have it activated again, is the fact that we don't have a camera system for that gauge cluster. I have seen in other models from GM where the digital gauge cluster will actually show a forward-facing camera and actually show sensing the traffic in front of you. And it doesn't seem to turn when you put your turn signals on to merge. But it's interesting because for this digital gauge cluster, and we're on an exit lane, it's very, very picky. Very interesting to see the roads that it decides it will turn on and turn off. But again, it's interesting that we don't have the full digital gauge cluster with the camera system, even though this has the Super Cruise system. And the last thing that I want to talk about in today's video is going to the charging station. So I've never been to the gas station before in order to charge an electric vehicle. So I swung by there earlier just to get a feel for how to do this and what to look for. So on the charging station at this particular gas station, I'm not sure if that's the same with others, but you get your first hour free, and then after that it's $6 an hour. So relatively speaking, that is pretty affordable compared to gasoline vehicles, obviously. The only caveat is the fact that you actually have to sit here for the duration of that time. So I'll go ahead and hook this up just for a little bit, just to show you the process of doing this. But you do have to sit here for at least a half hour to get around 93 miles versus filling up. You can do that in a matter of seconds and get the same mileage. So obviously there's going to be advantages and disadvantages between electric and gasoline vehicles. But for this type of technology, that is pretty cool. So if you're going on a long trip, maybe you can plug it in while you're taking a break, you know, getting something to eat, maybe stretching your legs, and then you can get back into your vehicle. You have some miles to go to your next destination. So as long as you time it right, I think it could work, especially on long distance trips. If you're driving this around the city like I am at the moment, I really don't have to worry about doing this because I can charge this at home until I leave for my next trip. So this is a pretty cool smaller size vehicle. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, checking out this 2022 Chevrolet Bolt EUV Premier. Once again, I'll be doing a full week review and just get a little more familiar with this vehicle and what it's like driving this around the city, charging it, and just my whole experience. So give the video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.